evening, everyone. Today we are going to discuss about merger and acquisition around the globe. We see that our global economy is evolving consistently. A number of merger and acquisition happen around the globe. There is a book in the market, How to Sell Your Business. This is a book which reveals all the stages which an owner has to go through when he decides to find a buyer for his business. The book emphasizes on ongoing business. This is not for selling assets. It has been written over 15 years of experience with the author in the field of merger and acquisition. As a result, the book is not so much of a textbook, but this is the full of practical cases which every entrepreneur might encounter while he tries to sell his business. So we have in our studio today the author, Mr. Kaloian Kirilov, and the co-author, Mr. Professor Dr. Sanjay Rout. I'll introduce.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah,
Please continue.
Okay.
Please continue.
Okay. So I'll give you a brief introduction of Mr. Kaloian. He is an entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience. He has completed his MBA with a full scholarship from GVSU, USA, where he worked on a small business development center and also for Merrill Lynch. After his return to Bulgaria, he worked for a while in a bank. And after that, in 2005, he set up his own merger and acquisition advisory firm, Synergy Group. Mr. Kaloian participated a lot in M&A deals in his 15 years of consulting career. He also did management consulting and strategy projects for his clients. During the last 5 years, Kal has developed 2 of his own startups. So he knows what it is to be an entrepreneur from the first-hand experience. Mr. Kirilov is also an author of 2 books about startups which were published in several countries. He has also written a book on succession planning. And with him is also co-author Professor Dr. Sanjay Rout. Professor Rout is an international researcher, he is an innovator and a speaker. He is well known in the field of research and development and innovation. He wears several hats. He has played different roles in many of the government and private projects. Currently, he is working as a chancellor of MBA University, Mexico. He is a research director of GIBU University, Liberia, and Educational Executive Council member of RKU University. He is a CEO of Innovation Solution Lab and director of ISL Publications. So this is a brief about both the personality. And with this, I am coming to my first question. Mr. Kaloian.
Yes.
What is the difference between a merger and acquisition?
Well, I guess all of our viewers can go up and look at in Google what's the difference. So mainly the main difference is in terms of legal point of view, when the lawyers will say that, mergers is when 2 separate entities merge together to make a new one. But I'm more interested as a business person, more in the business implications. And from a business implication, at least from my practice, we don't have many mergers, it's mainly acquisitions, because in order to have a real merger, you gotta have 2 pretty much equal independent entities to become a new company. But this is like a marriage, and it's very hard, to have like a equal parties in one marriage. And although you might call it a merger, at the end, one of the party always runs the show, And that's why in practice, from business point of view, you have in most cases always acquisition, but from legal point of view, the lawyers will say, you have two separate entities, they merge and make a new one, then you have a merger. So it depends how you see it from a legal point of view or from a business.
So, and what are the factors which decide if it will be a merger or it will be acquisition?
Well, if I have to repeat it, that's pretty much, for me, that will be, the main difference. How do you see it? It's I haven't seen many real mergers in the world. Even if you take like one of the icons like Daimler Chrysler merger, still it didn't work. It's different company, different culture, so it's very hard to make two companies work together because of different cultures. And in order this to continue successfully, one company has to take over of the other one in terms of processes, in terms of culture, etc. And that's why it didn't work out. So again, my experience is more from a business point of view. I'm a business guy, entrepreneur, not a lawyer, and that's why I don't care how the lawyers call it. But in most cases, I always will call it acquisitions. Just the term is like this, mergers, acquisitions. It sounds good, and that's why people talk, also about mergers. But in practice, it's mainly acquisitions.
Then just throw some light. What is the scene globally on this merger and acquisition? How do you find it?
For me or for professor?
Uh, this is for you actually. Primarily, I'll be talking to you because
Okay.
this is your overview. So further, we'll be putting my questions to Professor Sanjay. I think this session primarily you should explain the thing, so we'll get better idea how to move forward.
Okay. Well, it's a very complex question, to answer because the world is very different.
Mhm,
It's one thing in India, it's another thing in Eastern Europe, it's a third
mhm,
thing in America.
mhm,
Besides, you have different segments in the mergers and acquisitions.
okay.
People were reading newspapers about the big acquisitions because they make the newspapers, Bloomberg and all, etc. But that's completely different from the small deals. Everything is relative because for Bulgaria, for Eastern Europe, we're small countries. Something is small. For India, small is completely different thing.
Mhm,
But if we're taking more like like a family-owned companies,
mhm,
it can range from 5-10 million euros revenues to even 200,000 million revenues. It's not so much about the revenues; it's how the company is managed.
mhm,
Then you can make a parallel. It's pretty much more or less the same in the world. So it's uh, it's hard uh, it's hard to say one definition how it's in the different countries. But I would say all over the world, more and more deals we're gonna see with the family-owned companies because this is the normal process. Entrepreneurs set up companies, they develop them, and they got tired, and maybe the kids they don't want to run it, and of course they have to find a solution, either to do a succession planning, which I have wrote about in another book, or then the other option is to sell the company to a corporate buyer. This is the big companies you write about in the, and this is all true. It doesn't matter if you are in India, in Eastern Europe, or in the USA.
My point was, what is the size of this market, merger and acquisition currently, and how do you see it in near future globally?
Well, it's hard for me to say what is the size because I don't run statistic data. There's several institutional sites which can give about the different the size of the M&A deals in the different parts of the world, in America, in Western Europe, in Eastern Europe. So I guess people, if they're interested in this, they can go and check it up on Google. Plus, it depends very much on how do you see the M&A market, the mergers acquisition market? For example, in some countries, let's say even if you take Bulgaria, of course, here the leading business newspaper also is doing such ranks because it's interesting, for the people to hear some numbers. But do you include in that the renewable energy project? Yes, the M&A, but it's completely different, than selling, pharma company or the typical, production company. Do you include in that the real estate deals in terms of shopping malls, hotels? Okay, they are still businesses, but it's again different, from the technology company, etc. So first of all, you have to see what the definition, what we include in M&A deals. And after that, if you can break it up in segments, you can see in the different countries, can see different numbers. Plus the numbers also depend on the size of the market. In the big countries like, India, USA, China, you have very big deals, which, make big numbers. But again, for me, it's more interesting the number of the deals, not so much about the size. I even recently saw just some research which says that for the last year, the number of the deals in the world are decreasing, but the size of the deals are increasing. So you
I
might
see.
see a title, M&A is a record high. Okay, in terms of size of transaction, they are. What about in terms of the numbers of the deals? Because the deals are becoming bigger and bigger with every year.
Okay, so with this, I am moving to my this. Do you have any idea what is the potential of merger and acquisition in India?
Hello, this is
Yeah,
for me, Sinat.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think you will
So,
be better to answer this question actually.
yeah. So there are a lot of things being gone on in the past, and also there are a lot of opportunities for future. It's merger and acquisitions. As my friend really said that business point of view is a different, lawyer point of view is a different, and we believe merger and acquisitions. If we reverse the word M into which we reverse the letter, it will be W, means like work culture, and A, if we reverse it, it will be V for value. So merger acquisition, not only only the legal point of view, because legal is a process where we can embodiment the protocols of the business of the financial things and all. But we should follow the work culture strategies, futuristic growth, and a lot of initiatives. So merger are different to different, especially as for the government mergers, especially on the PSU takeovers and all. There are private mergers, there are startup mergers, there are hybrid mergers where some different companies are capturing some of the capitals and develop new strategies for that. So in my since before pandemic and also after pandemic, there are a lot of synergies has been happening. Previously, only merger is only taken by the big companies or big tycoons or big business leaders. But gradually, nowadays, by a couple of companies in different geographical regions, they merge also with some other things. Okay. So it's not only merging the financial things or legal, it's a value merging and so culture merging, which can disturb the market of their future products. Okay, just one example. It is that your big bazaar, that is Mr. Biani's group. It is probably because it is not yet merged, but it is going to be merged whether in the Amazon or whether in the Reliance, whichever may be. So when it will be merged, then the main stakeholder will be diversify their products into their chain. Okay, according to also taking care of the big bazaar's platform and some of the ethics.
So my point here also is the same. What is the business size? What kind of potential you see in this field actually in merger and acquisition area? Do you think it will be growing in India also? And what do you see actually?
So it has already been grown in India when all the innovations, startups, and especially business culture is growing, adapting by economic tree and also by merging to different geographical regions when virtual entity is morely enforcement into our cultures. Okay. So there are ample of opportunities, especially for the new SMEs, because previously, as I told you in last question, that it was only for the PSUs and some of the big tycoon industries. But nowadays merger is all open to all people. Okay, so if my company is based at India, if I want to merge any company, maybe in Europe or maybe in US or US, UK, so there will be no arbitration of, especially no major issues on the approaches of merger. But it depends that if my work value, my product value, my future strategical value, and all the things are matching, then we can merge. So like it's an open that there are a lot of stocks available in the market, whatever you preference, and what are the other stuff also preference to you. That is the same.
Okay, so this was all the question I had on my mind actually. If you can just brief about the book, we'll be discussing in detail later with the further session actually. Just for the knowledge of the audience, can you just give an overview of the book, what the book deals with, and how this is going to help the reader actually, or any entrepreneur?
So for my sense as a co-author and my friend Mr. Kaloian, who is an expertise in merger acquisitions and all, especially on the business acumen. So this big book is actually a Bible for especially future coming entrepreneur, SMEs, and different industries. Because it's a merger and acquisition is, you can say, the practical form of experiences and expertise to acquire and profitize a company. And this book will be help you out. You can say that it is a designing tool to help you out to recraft your designing and create a new diaspora of merging with a company or merging for a product and spread to different avenue of the world. Why we are merging? Means we want to spread.
Do you have any idea of the market size of merger and acquisition in India? What is the size or any idea of the future prospect?
Size is not like there will be no capture figure like this much of things is there in the market. Okay, there are a lot of new segments are day by day or month by month or financial year by year adapting. Okay, previously some are energy mergers, now they startup mergers, IoT mergers, IoT company mergers. So there are different avenues. So market size is big and opportunity for the future is very good in the sense because nowadays all things are being virtualized. Even if things are very great to all people, it's not limited to only big companies.
So I am curious to know actually, when a merger happens or acquisition happens, which kind of consultants are involved in such a deal, apart from the entrepreneur?
So merger acquisitions is a process, only not to acquire the company, but to acquire the culture, acquire the products. So previously, when PSUs or big business persons are merged between companies and companies, so there are mostly financials like CA, lawyers, and the business management or board bodies are involved into it. Okay. But nowadays, a lot of things are involved into from you can say the behavior spheres, and especially for the legal spheres, especially for the financial spheres, especially for the design spheres. So it's a one you can say the project management embodiment of the company, but the major decision maker of the board of directors, financial people, legal people, and especially those people who are in especially companies hiring about the behavior management and all. So HR and all. So these are the major board members, you can say, who are involving in the merger.
So I think I am through with my questions for this first session. This is just about the overview of the book and introduction of author and the co-author and what the book holds for the entrepreneur actually. So if you would like to add something to this, then please add something and then we'll be ending the session.
I'll be appreciated that our major author, Mr. Kaloian, he could add some.
Well, as the professor explained, I agree with this. The there are different parties involved in the process. There are different types of deals, which makes completely different. I know that for people who are not familiar with the subject, when you say merger acquisitions, for them it sounds all the same. It's like talking to my mom and say, okay, he's working in a bank, he says a banker, but what bank? It can be investment bank, it can be retail banking, it can be corporate banking, mortgage, so different types of banking is still, banking.
Mm.
And but the main goal of the book is to help the entrepreneurs and the owners to be more prepared for such process when it comes at site. They're not going to become a specialist because this is not their job. Their job is to run their own business. But if they have a basic understanding of the terms, of the steps, of the processes, then it's going to be much easier for the consultant, for the experts in this field to work with them so they can successfully together close the deal. Otherwise, if they're not prepared, it's going to take a lot more time. And very often the deal will not be closed because, they're not familiar with some of the concerns of the steps. It just makes it difficult. And that was the goal of the book, to prepare the family owners, the entrepreneurs, the managers in these companies to get some basic understanding of the process, which will make it easier for them.
Oh, that's great. This is overview of the book and introduction of the author and the co-author. We'll be coming up with more sessions. What are there in the book, and how this is going to help the entrepreneur. So more session will be coming up. So thank you for your time, Mr. Kaloian and Professor Rout and the audience.
Thank you.
Please subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon. We will be coming up more videos on this book, on this subject. And this is a very much interesting and very useful. This will be helping a number of entrepreneurs actually. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Kaloian and Professor Rout. So we'll be meeting up again.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. 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 Bye.